I'm Dr. Hannah Capon. This is Luna, and I am founder of Canine Arthritis Management, an online educational resource for owners of arthritic dogs. I've been asked to talk to you about lifestyle changes that could have an effect on your dog's pain state and maybe even the progression of the disease. And today we're going to talk about bedding. So, we all love a good bed. And we all have different preferences. I quite like a hard bed, other people quite like a soft bed. But generally, we want something comfortable for us to be able to sleep on, because sleeping is imperative for us to be able to function properly. If we don't sleep well, we end up suffering. We end up getting stressed, emotional. Things start to go wrong if you don't get good sleep. And the same really applies for our dogs as well. We also know that there is a big link between pain and sleep. If you have pain, you don't tend to sleep well. And if you don't sleep well, you have worse pain. So getting their sleep right is really, really important. A dog generally needs around about 11 or 12 hours sleep a day. And they'll take it in kind of sections. So quite often 3 or 4 sections throughout the day, they'll take a good aliquot of that 12 hours of sleep. And we need to make sure that they can do that for them to basically keep in a nice balanced state. So we need to help them. And that's where bedding comes into play. Having good bedding is really important, but there's much more to it. We need to think about the bedding and the surface that it's on, the position in the house that it's in. So let's start with where to put the beds in the house. This is very, very dog dependent. Some dogs would quite like quiet time. They like to be able to see you, but they don't want you to be walking past and disturbing. Other dogs want to be in the thick of it, so they want to have their bed as near to you as possible. So bear that in mind and see what suits your dog. But try and make sure that they're not in a drafty area, in a cold area. They're not going to be tripped over. Make sure that they're safe. Also give them choice. Maybe give them a couple of beds around the house, 2, 3 different locations. They can choose what's going to suit them. They might be slightly different surfaces of bed because the dog feels, oh, do you know what? I'm feeling okay today. I'm going to go and sleep in that one. Oh, I'm feeling a bit sore today. I'd quite like the firm one over there. Give them choice, okay? So next, let's actually talk about the surface around the bed. It's a real common thing to see a fantastic bed on a slippery floor. So if a dog's been asleep, say 3 to 4 hours, when they get up, if they're arthritic, they're likely to be very stiff. And they're very likely to succumb to slips, trips and falls as they step out of their bed, stiff, not so fluid motion, put a foot on a slippery floor, whoops. So think about the area around that bed as well and make sure it offers them good traction. Next, let's talk about the bed. Access points. It's very common to see people spend a lot of money on these fantastic beds. And they're 4-poster beds, chaise longues, they're pods. It's all great, but is that for us or is it for them? We need to make sure that they can get into these beds safely. So please watch my episode about thresholds, because a dog with arthritis is going to be less able. And what you might think is only a short distance step, only a small height for them to step up over and onto, can be a really big challenge for them. So again, I would suggest that you watch, does your dog get in and out of that bed slowly, with ease and safely? Now let's talk about the actual substance of the bed. Generally, the more boring a bed looks, the better it is. So when you see these billowing, puffy, pink with feathers and diamantes and all manner of lovely stuff on it, quite often there's not going to be any support in there. That's what my findings have been. So when I advise owners about bedding, I tend to say to them, I want it to be predictable. I want it to have traction. I want it to be firm enough that when they place their foot on it as they step into bed and they start turning around to get comfortable, then they're going to lose their balance. So it's going to offer them support and cushioning and predictability. I like them to be big enough so the dog can lay and fully stretch out and have the ability to get up and move around and get comfortable. I like them to have a backrest so they can press their back into it. I quite like them to have a rest where they can lean their head or their neck if they choose to do so. I don't like seeing loads of blankets and fleeces and things because they can become a bit of a trip hazard. If you think about it, if your dog gets up in the night, turns around a few times to lay down again, are they going to get their legs caught up in that blanket? Is it going to become a little knot around that weak hind limb? Are they going to become a trip hazard? So I don't like too much stuff in there. I don't really want them to put loads of teddies in there because it leaves them less room for them to actually lay down and stretch out. So there's a lot of things that you can do with bedding. Now, some dogs will always seem to use the floor, and that can really drive owners mad. You have to listen to what your dog says, so please don't force them to use the bed that you've chosen for them. They have to have choice. When you introduce a bed into the house, maybe put some of your clothes on it so that your smell transfers across, or maybe use the outer blanket, the outer casing of their old bed so that they can get the connection. This is my new bed. This is where it's going to be. This is for me. I'm allowed to use it, and coax them into using it gently. Okay, so thank you so much for listening to all the lifestyle tips. I feel that hopefully your dog is going to be a lot more comfortable at home. See you then.